What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on Buysellcars TV. Today's video is all about the 7 Series. So provisionally, I have now sold this car. So I thought it'd be the perfect time to give you guys an overview of what it's like to own a budget luxury car, talk about some of the problems I've had, but more importantly, talk about those real life running costs, the general maintenance, unexpected costs, and the real world running costs of an old 7 Series like this. So that's the topic of today's video. This is probably the last drive I'm going to have in this car before it goes. So let's get on with the video and let's talk about what it's been like to own a budget luxury car for the last 6 months. So let's start with problems I've had with this car. You'll be surprised to hear that I have not had any major issues with this car. A few people did say these cars are known for having a lot of issues and they're cheap for a reason, effectively, which I partially do agree with, but at the same time, you get good cars, you get bad cars. If a car's been well maintained and looked after, you're less likely to have certain issues with the car, right? So the problems I had with this car are literally just intermittent issues with the parking sensors. It is such a minor thing for me. It's not something which I've even got rectified because they do work, they're just temperamental. And it's quite the common theme with older BMWs, not even just on a 7 Series, across the other models, 3 Series, 5 Series, around this era of car, you know, early 2000s to mid 2000s, it is a common thing that there's issues with parking sensors. Now, because it's an old car, you're going to expect the odd little thing here and there, but in terms of problems, that is a very small thing. In the grand scheme of things where, you know, many more expensive things could go wrong with this car, I don't consider that something for me to be concerned about. However, it still is a problem I've had with the car, so of course I'm going to mention it. But other than that, no other issues with this car. It's been absolutely fantastic during my ownership. I've driven it around 6,000 miles and had it for 6 months. Cannot fault this car. But let me pull over because what I want to do is get into the nitty gritty of the real life cost of owning this car. So we're going to talk about, you know, the total cost of this car, the ongoing maintenance and expenses I've had during my ownership, as well as getting into some of that real nitty gritty, road tax, fuel, everything, so we can have an exact cost of what it's like to own a budget luxury car for the period of time which I've had. But let's see if I broke even or even made a profit on this car during this ownership. So let me pull over and let's get into those costs. So the car cost me in total, with all the fees from the auction, £1,859.30. That was the cost of me getting the car at the auction, driving away. Now, during the ownership I've had of this car, like I said, I've done just over 6,000 miles and I've had this car since like end of January. So during that time, I've had to do a couple of things to the car. So I had to get an MOT done, which cost me £40. I also got the engine oil and filter change, so that was £96. Front brake pads, which I actually got done last week, cost me £93.60. So that means the total cost of this car, including maintenance throughout my ownership, is £2,088.90. And I've provisionally sold this car for £3,000. So that leaves me with a profit of £911.10. That's not bad at all when you think I've driven this car for 6 months and 6,000 miles. But I think we can delve a little bit deeper into the real life running costs, because I'm sure you want to know things like the actual fuel costs of this car as well. So let's figure that out now. So I've averaged 32.5 miles per gallon according to the trip computer on the car. Now, it's not 100% accurate, but it's there or thereabouts. So that's what I've averaged during my ownership of this car. I've driven 6,086 miles since when I bought the car, and the average fuel price during this time is approximately about £1.50 a litre. So putting all of this into the calculator, the total cost of running this car in terms of the fuel put into this is £1,276.11. That's probably the biggest cost I've had on this car, but you would have that cost on any car as well, so just take that into account. Now, the next cost that I've had to pay on this car, again, is something which every car does have, but because of the type of car it is, it's a little bit more expensive. So, road tax on this car. Now, I do it on a monthly direct debit. It's £34.56 per month. But obviously, I've had the car for 6 months, meaning I've paid £207.36 for the road tax over that period of time. Again, quite a large cost to take into consideration, but every car needs to be taxed. Depending on your bracket, it's something everyone has to do. Now, insurance is very individual, so I'm not going to put that into this bracket because for me, I have trade insurance, so I can put it on my policy. But again, depending on your age, where you live, your insurance for this car could be anywhere from maybe £300 upwards to £1,000. So that's something you'll have to take into consideration. But for this instance, we're not factoring that in. So now we've got a new total cost for this car because we're going to include the road tax that we've paid and the fuel that we put into this car as well. So that brings a grand total for this car from buying it, maintaining it, running it, fueling it, taxing it, to £3,572.37. I know it does sound a bit more expensive than the original £1,500 bid that we started from, but let me just break it down for you. So this car is being sold for £3,000. So the real cost of me owning this car over the 6-month period and driving it 6,086 miles is only £572.37. Now, if we break that up into a monthly figure, it's only £95.40. That is how much this car has actually cost me in terms of, money lost effectively. That is not a big amount of money to be losing on a car like this when you're considering you've got your £3,000 back and the remainder figure of £572 is the actual cost of owning a budget luxury car, fueling it, taxing it, servicing it, MOTing it, putting brake pads on it. That is not a big number at all. I'm actually pleasantly surprised with the real life running cost of this car for me. Many people will tell you these cars have their issues and are a money pit, but I'm just here to give you my experience on a real life ownership of something of this caliber over this period of time and this much mileage, to break down how much it's cost me. So it's black and white. That is my experience of owning this car, and hopefully that gives you an insight into what it's like to own a really cheap high mileage BMW 7 Series. Please don't assume that every 7 Series is like this. This obviously was a good car and well looked after, but it's a point proven to show you can still buy a really nice car for little money. And in all honesty, deep down I don't really want to get rid of this car, but that comes on to my next point. What is going to be the replacement? I really was umming and ahhing. Do I sell this car or do I not? I've reduced the price a little bit because obviously it's not a super popular car in the first place to buy and sell, but it's done me well. It's such a comfortable car, serves the purpose, it's absolutely massive, which I love. But in terms of replacements, I am thinking just to buy another 7 Series, maybe go for the model a little bit newer. The other option was to go buy another Range Rover, but the older model, you can pick them up for a couple of grand, but the reliability on those older Range Rovers can be a little bit more troublesome. So I'm still debating on what car to go for. But all I'm looking for is something with a bit of practicality, a lot of space for the driver. It needs to be comfortable because I absolutely love a comfortable car. So really and truly, we're talking 5 Series level and above, or Mercedes E-Class, those types of cars and above in terms of the size and space. So, but also it needs to be cheap enough that I can just sort of bash it about being a work car, throw things into the back, into the boot, and not have to worry about where I park this car or if I come back to it and it's got any marks or whatever it is on there. So that is what I'm looking for. I probably will end up with another budget luxury car, let's just be honest about it, but I am now actively going to be looking for the replacement car off the 7 Series, so need to get myself another workhorse. But comment down below, guys, let me know what you think would be the perfect work car to replace the 7 Series BMW. Let me know in the comments. But on that note, guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Hopefully it's been an insightful one to show you what it's like to own a cheap budget luxury car for a period of time. So hopefully that's come through on today's video, guys. If you do have any other questions or anything you want to ask, please feel free to comment down below and I'll do my best to answer. But as always, guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'm going to see you on the next one. Take care, guys.